So yesterday was a whirlwind of news. It was insane to see what has happened in the Phoenix Suns landscape. I am a little surprised, now that I've had nearly a day for it all to marinate, that the Phoenix Suns did end up letting go of Mike Budenholzer as early as they did. If you look back at their history, it took them a while to let go of Monty Williams. It took them a while to let go of Frank Vogel. They didn't take either of those decisions lightly. Mike Budenholzer was so bad, they kicked him out the door before he could get his shoes on. And now that we have had all the news trickle out for Mike Budenholzer, the mistreatment of players, if you want to call it that, his lack of accountability, and overall just his lack of caring about coaching this team, the Phoenix Suns absolutely made the right decision. I know there will be people in my chat, and there was people in our chat last night in Locked On Phoenix Suns that were saying, oh, he's being scapegoated, or he's not being fairly treated. It's not all his fault. That is true, that it is not all his fault, but call it what it is, guys. Mike Budenholzer clearly had more to do with the downfall of this team than he did the success. Some of the things that we saw yesterday when it came to the reporting of Chris Haynes or the reporting of John Gambadoro over at 987 and Chris Haynes, formerly of Bleacher Report, formerly of Turner Sports, all this other stuff, formerly of ESPN, it's very clear to this point why Mike Budenholzer got fired. So let's go through some of it. Mike Budenholzer, and these are all direct quotes that Chris Haynes said, or this is how he phrased it. Mike Budenholzer called Jusuf Nurkic a bad teammate because of his screen setting. Two things that I know people, obviously I know people are dislike Jusuf Nurkic, but two things about Jusuf Nurkic that are absolutely true. One, he's a really good teammate. He really likes his guys. He was the first one to stay Brooklyn all over again, but he has stood by his guys. He has stood up for his guys, and that is a real thing that I think players liked about Jusuf Nurkic. He spoke up for them. He really went to bat for this team. I would say Nurkic was anything but a bad teammate. And then the screen setting, Chris Haynes mentioned this too. Damian Lillard had mentioned for years how Nurkic was the best screen setter that he's ever played with. It's hard for me to believe Nurkic just went into score mode and moved off of that. So there was that aspect, and there was also the aspect of the offense was just too random. And don't you all feel vindicated when you hear that? That the offense was too random, and that, for lack of a better word, it didn't make any sense? We watched this offense week in and week out, month in and month out. All the time we were like, what are the rotations? Why is Ryan Dunn not in this team? Why is whoever it's called not in this team? Why is Colin Gillespie playing well one night but not playing in the lineup the next night? Why is Bradley Beal going to the bench and then coming back? Why is Tyus Jones going from minutes in the starting lineup to no minutes at all? None of it made any sense. But even more than that, when they were on the floor, the players didn't know when their number was going to be called. And yes, there is a method to the madness of playing a brand of style that is random, that makes it hard for other teams to get ready for. But you need to have some semblance of a game plan. And the players didn't like that either. And I got to be honest with you guys. The one thing that stuck out to me the most, which is really starting to push me in the direction of, man, I don't think Mike Budenholzer, A, cared at all, and B, was ever a very good head coach. Gambo said yesterday on the radio, and I wish I had it to play it for you guys, that it seemed like Budenholzer had other priorities other than coaching the Phoenix Suns. Listen, I am a very strong advocate of, yes, family first, everything else second. For me, it's my wife first, everything else second. What you're seeing is a clear disconnect between basketball and reality. Yes, Budenholzer should absolutely put those types of things ahead, his family, wife, whatever, kids. I get that. But number two is the Phoenix Suns. You're getting paid $50 million a year to coach one of the best teams or one of the most expensive teams in the NBA, if I was actually saying that correctly. You can't be that guy. You can't be the guy that barely cares about this team. Mike Budenholzer, some of the issues with him is clearly came true with some of the reporting that me and my co-host Brendan Clean talked about. It was like, does this guy even care? He didn't try to save his job. So the more reporting that comes out, the more I'm like, damn, I think Budenholzer was by Gambo sourcing, miserable to deal with, and just an incredibly tough person to be around. And if you're not getting along with Devin Booker, it's like not getting along with your boss at work. You're just going to get the axe at some point. But more than that, I don't want to just rag on Budenholzer. I see my guy Mike in the chat saying Bud has a chip. The Suns don't. Well, Frank Vogel had a chip, and, he still doesn't have a job either. Mike Brown took the Cavaliers to a championship. Nothing happened after that. Monty Williams took this team to the championship. Hey, Popovich has got multiple championships, and he hasn't sniffed the playoffs, and it feels like a decade. So I don't really necessarily agree with that, although I do appreciate my guy Michael. The fact that James Jones hasn't been fired yet, and I'll even go a step further. The fact that Mat Ishbia assembled the Avengers in Josh Bartelstein and James Jones and got in a room together and fired Mike Budenholzer together, it makes me to believe that you haven't learned anything. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's ongoing discussions about what James Jones' role could look like. Maybe I'll bring in a Bob Myers to help kind of oversee everything, or a Dave Griffin to help oversee everything, and letting Josh, and I don't care if I'm just being fair, I just dislike Josh Bartelstein because he's a Nepo baby. I don't think he should be at where he's at. I don't think he's earned it. That's one of the gripes that I have with Josh Bartelstein. But that's my own personal gripes because it drives me insane when people get jobs because their daddy is someone else. It's someone that gets them that job. And that's clearly what Bartelstein is. And maybe he owns it, whatever. I never was going after Bartelstein because I thought he was in charge or a part of some of the decisions being made in terms of roster construction for this team. And it turns out maybe he's got a little bit more of a hand in that than he probably should. I'm not so much so advocate Bartelstein because of his CEO stuff. I would be more so fire Bartelstein if he has any say in the roster construction of this team. He doesn't need to be talking about anything of that. So if Bartelstein wants to stay and just go make deals with MasterCard and Visa and PayPal, he can stay. But he cannot be sniffing this roster. He can't be near a draft war room. I don't want him there. That's not his lane. So if we're going to move on or keep Bartelstein, which I think they're going to do because Ishbia and him have that close relationship, he can't be touching this roster. But James Jones has got to go. We've ran this course with James Jones. And the fact that this Suns season didn't finally give you clarity of that. It's like Ishbia, man. I've done a lot of defending of this guy because he's opened up the checkbooks, because I know people like to say, oh, the $2 hot dogs. He has made things affordable for Suns fans to come. That is to come to games. That is not nothing. Making Suns games free. Other owners are not doing that, guys. That cannot be taken lightly. Creating new facilities for the Suns team. Putting his money where his mouth is. All of that is great. But come on, man. It's a little bit mom and pop Michael Bidwill style if you're not firing guys just because they're nice people. We got to move off of this stuff. And so the fact that there's no clarity in this, I am a little disappointed. Even if it's a slow trickle, right? Even if it's a slow trickle of where the Suns want to go and moving off guys, I'm not happy with that either. This Suns season, I think everyone in the chat would be able to tell me this, was a colossal failure. I am not the one who's freaking out or overblowing it. They were 13 games worse or 16 games worse this year than they were last year. It's an embarrassment. And it would be 13 games. They won 36 games, 49 games, whatever. That's an embarrassment. The Suns should be utterly embarrassed. And the fact that Ishbia doesn't feel the need to be so embarrassed to walk in there and to just fire everyone that he sees, I don't care who it is, just fire him. Make an example out of everyone. I don't know what to say at that point. It's just embarrassing. And the fact that James Jones hasn't taken the axe yet. Now, remember, James Jones can't be fired because his contract is just run out. The wording from Shams Charania or Chris Haynes or whoever it's going to be that breaks the story is going to be a mutual parting of ways, which will look good for James Jones and will look less bad for Mat Ishbia for that relationship, but he can't be fired. Only Bartelstein can be fired because that contract isn't up yet. You can't fire someone who's already out the door. So I thought this Suns season gave this team clarity, and it doesn't turn out that that's the way they've seen it. And that really pisses me off. And it should really piss you off as well. Because what we saw, the only light at the end of the tunnel, after watching the season, was very clearly, it's almost over soon. They're going to get rid of all of these guys, and we're going to figure out how to retool this roster and retool management. They didn't do that. I know it could be coming soon, but it's been a little too long for us to just be continuously waiting for that. I thought they learned their lesson. Frank Vogel took a while to get fired. Monty Williams took a while to get fired. Mike Budenholzer, axed, gone. James Jones, let's think about it. And let's have him in the room as we fire Mike Budenholzer. It's disappointing, man. It's disappointing, and those guys cannot just be here. Everyone's got to take the axe.